What's going on, YouTube? I just want to make a quick update video for y'all. Um, so I know y'all been seeing me on my Chinese journey, um, which is, which is fine, right? It's kind of dark in here. Sorry about that. Let me turn on the lights. But I think I've finally reached the point where I am fluent enough in Chinese where I feel comfortable starting a new language. And I've decided to do that. I am starting Spanish, Espanol. I think Spanish is very interesting. Not as interesting as Chinese. No hate to the Spanish speakers, but Chinese is my first love. But Spanish, I'm looking at Spanish in terms of the usefulness of the language. When I originally first started learning languages in 2019, I told y'all one of my videos, inspiration was Lao Shu, right? And he speaks a ton. He spoke a ton of languages. But watching his videos and then realizing, like, hey, wait a minute. What are the top spoken languages in the world? Spanish, English, Chinese. I already thought Chinese sounded cool anyway, so I really wanted to learn Chinese. Spanish, I thought was more feasible at the time, so I decided at that point in time that I should learn Spanish. Turns out the will and the interest and the drive to learn Chinese overtook. Whenever I heard Chinese, it was just like, man, because it's so foreign. When you're an American, it's such a foreign language. Chinese, it's so out there compared to Spanish, because when you're in America, you hear Spanish a lot, especially growing up, and you probably know tons of Spanish and don't realize it. So it was that drive to know how to speak something that was so foreign and out the way is why I eventually switched over from Spanish to Chinese. I think I learned Spanish for about maybe 2 months before I decided to switch. It was like 2 months, and I was like actively trying to learn. And at the time, I didn't really know how to learn a language yet. But I was doing what I can because I was interested. And when you're interested, you'll figure out ways. You'll figure it out. But yeah, so I started learning Spanish. I switched over to Chinese, and Chinese, it's been like that ever since. So, here we are, 5 years later? I say 5 years because while I was learning Chinese in 2019, I didn't really buckle down and figure out how to learn, in an effective way until about 2020. So past 5 years has been really nothing but Chinese. And moving to China, I made a video on this already. I don't know if y'all seen it. Moving to China has kind of locked in that rate of progress to where this past year and a half that I've been here, I finally feel in my heart that I've reached the goal of being conversationally fluent and understanding enough where I don't want to use the word satisfied, but yeah, where I'm like, I'm happy. Once again, language learning, I've said this before, language learning is a lifetime activity. It's a lifetime hobby. I'm never going to stop learning Chinese, but there's a point where you actively learn and you passively learn. Past 5 years, I've been actively learning Chinese, and at least until the time I leave China, I'm going to stop actively learning it, and I'm going to go full-blown Spanish. Yes, it's weird. I know, learning Spanish in China, but this is just where I'm at right now. I've come to China and I've accomplished what I came here for. I know I signed a 2-year contract. I'm not going to leave. I'm going to do the whole 2 years, obviously. But it took me a year and a half. I was thinking, should I do 1 year in China? I'm glad I didn't do 1 year. I'm glad I chose the 2-year option, because it took me until now, where your heart's like, it's time, right? Where it's like, oh, I've made it. I'm here. I can't deny that I speak Chinese anymore. I do. I'm always going to be hesitant when I use the term fluent, but I can't deny it anymore. I am fluent in Chinese. I can go outside, I can have a conversation, and I can talk to people, ask them what they mean, and literally explain almost anything using Chinese. Now with Spanish, am I going to go as far as I am with Chinese with Spanish? I don't necessarily have the aspiration to do that. I want to be on a base level fluent in Spanish, but when you're not as interested in a language, I think it's unrealistic to set a goal to be like super high level in the language. I'm very interested in Chinese, so that's why I can see myself continuing to get better and better with Chinese. But with Spanish, I do want a base level of fluency, but if it doesn't go beyond that, then I'm okay with that. But ultimately, once again, the goal was to learn the top 3 spoken languages in the world. And if I can get to that level in Spanish, I'll be happy, I'll be satisfied, and that goal that I set in 2019 will come into fruition. So that's what I wanted to tell you guys. Let me show you some material or some resources that I bought. So these are things I bought within the past couple of weeks, right? I decided not even a couple of weeks, maybe like a week ago, I decided like, okay, let's start learning Spanish. But it wasn't until today, or no, not today, maybe since yesterday, where I said, actually, let's stop actively learning Chinese and let's full-blown go in Spanish. My initial plan was, we'll do 20% Spanish, 80% Chinese. No, I'm at the point now where it's okay. We're gonna learn Spanish. If we forget some Chinese, that's fine. No big deal. I'm here in China for the next 7 months. I have to use my Chinese while I'm here. So actually, this is a better time to study a different language, because ultimately I have to use Chinese when I go outside anyway. And that means I won't be able to really forget my Chinese, and I'll actively be learning another language while I'm here, if that makes sense. So this book is cool. It starts you off with some grammar. This is called Español Básico, or 基础西班牙语. So this is, by the way, guys, I decided to learn Spanish using Mandarin. I think that's another way to keep your language progress alive for whatever language that you've learned before. Because this is my third language, but my second language as far as learning. So to keep that original language that you learned alive, Chinese, I'm going to learn Spanish through Chinese. So here they have, sentences, short sentences, which I think is cool. And it's using the same grammar points. Es mi moto, es mi mesa, es mi mapa, es mi pipa, es mi... So it's like, it's my blah, 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 it's my blah, blah, blah. Es tu mapa, es tu moto, es tu mesa, it's your, es su, it's hers or his, right? Amo a Emma, amo a Pepe, amo a mi papa, amo a mi mama. I love my mom, I love my dad, whoop, 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 right? And then they give you the meaning of the words here, like es means sure, which is me, 我的, which is mine, right? So, mesa, 桌子, right? Table. Mapa, 地图, map. So they give you the translations there, they give you some sentences, and then they kind of, at the end of the chapter, they have sentences that they want you to translate. So for me, let me get out the dark here. Right, for number 1, 这是你的摩托车吗? Is this your motorcycle? So you need to translate it in Spanish. Es esto tu moto? And then number 2, 是的,这是我的摩托车. Yes, it's my motorcycle. So you put in Spanish. Sí, esto es mi moto, right? So that's how this book is set up. And there's two books. Yeah, this video is going to run a little bit long. I'm already at 12 minutes. But there's 2 books, right? So I think I'm going to learn a lot from these books. But let me show y'all the most impressive book that I bought that I like a lot. I just bought this book yesterday. Let me open this up. And I keep it in my bag. Because what I like to do is I like to go out, maybe go to a coffee shop, or if I go out to a restaurant, and I like to have my study materials with me so I can study at any given time. So this book I just bought yesterday. And this book is really, really nice because they give you dialogue to study from. So if we look at the first chapter, 1.1, this is how they start off every chapter, and then they go by, whatever the subject is. Like this first chapter is like introducing yourself, right? Saludar y despedirse, right? So here you can see it says hola, right? Which means ni hao, hello. And then they give you different responses that you can, have, right? So let's look at the second part here, because that one's just basic hola, right? Saying hello to people. This one says ¿qué tal?, right? So 热人朋友家人之间. So this means like close people who are close to you. So you would say ¿qué tal?, which means ni怎么样? How are you? ¿Qué tal? You say that to your friends, family, or people you're close with. ¿Qué tal? But ¿cómo estás? There is no like 热人朋友. There's no, none of that. So this just is like a standard. How are you? 你怎么样? ¿Cómo estás? And then they got the responses next to it. Tirando ni bien ni mal. ¿Y tú? ¿Cómo andas? So 不好不坏. 你呢? 你怎么样? So this means like 你bien你mal. So that means there's nothing great, nothing good. What about you, right? So basically saying everything's just normal. Or you can say ¿cómo va todo? 一切都好吗? So this means like, is everything good? And then you can say todo bien, 一切都好. So it's all good, right? So this book, it just has a bunch of dialogues. And then you get to study bits and pieces from the dialogue. They give you words from the dialogue. Some words are not from the dialogue. I don't know how I feel about that. I feel like if you're going to set up a dialogue, just have the words from the dialogue that you can study from. They've added like words in here, but I mean that's fine. I'm cool with more knowledge. Then they explain some grammar points here, right? You know, 名词 noun, 副词 I forgot what 副词 means, but regardless, right? 形容词 that means adjective. They're just teaching you what some of the sentences, how to use some of the sentences along with, you know, the vocab and grammar and all that. And then the next chapter is the same way. So this is what I'm going to carry around with me when I'm studying. And then I got 2 notebooks, right? Like this notebook was what I was using for my Chinese. You know, this right here, what I did is from my phone and from things that I read, I would, you know, memorize Chinese words and then write them down in this notebook, you know, and then the translations in English, right? So, you know, if you want to look at like prime example, let's choose one here. Let's do an easy one for y'all. This one, right? 机动. This means motorized, power driven, right? Then you got the example sentences, right? So 机动公式, right? So 机动 could also mean flexible. So I use the flexible examples, right? 机动公式, so flexible work hours. 机动价格, right? Flexible prices. So I got example sentences here, and I'm using English to translate them, but, you know. Now for this book with Spanish, since I'm using Chinese to learn Spanish, I'm going to do the same thing I'm doing in this book for Chinese, but I'm going to do it for Spanish. So basically, I'm going to have the translations in Chinese and then have the Spanish here. So let's take a look at this. This is from the book. I'm learning from the book. So this is the conversation, the dialogue. So this is how I study the dialogue. So look at this. Let's look at number 4, right? ¿Qué hay de nuevo? ¿Qué hay de nuevo? So this means 有什么新鲜事吗? So this means like, is there anything new? Is there anything new? ¿Qué hay de nuevo? Hay de nuevo. Nuevo means new. There. ¿Qué what's there of new? What's there of new? ¿Qué what? There. Hay de of nuevo, new. And then you can, they got some responses here, right? Like this one says, acabo de encontrar un nuevo trabajo. So this means, well, all right, this means it just happened. So I know gang means acabo based on the context of the sentence. So now I know how to say what just happened, right? Acabo de encontrar. Encontrar, 找到. This means find. So encontrar means find, right? Un nuevo, a new. 一个新, right? A new. Trabajo, 工作. This is job. So this is how I'm studying Spanish through Chinese. So that's my plan. I plan on just making let me flip this camera back around. I plan on just basically learning Spanish from now on until I leave China. I say until I leave China because I think in the States, by the time I leave China in like 7 months, I should be at a decent level with Spanish. I've read online that it doesn't take too long to learn Spanish for English speakers. And I can see why. There's lots of words that sound the same and stuff like that. So hopefully in 6-7 months, I'll be at a decent level. Get back to the States, study Chinese 80% of the time, take the Spanish down to 20% of the time, and just kind of live within my 3 languages. So that's the plan. I want to make this video less than 20 minutes. So appreciate y'all for watching. You have a good day.